Porsche, a name often associated with speed and engineering excellence in the automotive world, played a very significant role in the development of German combat vehicles during World War II, although its role often receives less attention than it deserves. Under the direct leadership of its founder, Ferdinand Porsche, the company leveraged its engineering innovations to design some of the most advanced and influential military vehicles of the time. In the tumultuous global war stage, Porsche faced great challenges, not only in terms of design but also in mass production and material efficiency. One of Porsche's main contributions was the development of engines and chassis used in military projects, including armored vehicles. Although some Porsche projects did not reach mass production, their impact was still felt in the evolution of military vehicle design, providing invaluable contributions to the development of combat technology. Amid fierce competition to develop a new heavy tank for the Wehrmacht, Porsche introduced the VK4501P. Although it failed to be selected for production, the design of the VK4501P became the basis for other more well-known combat vehicles, such as the Elefant. Porsche may not have always succeeded in every project, but its contribution to German military technology innovation during World War II remains an integral part of the war's history. The VK4501P, also known as the Tiger P, was one of the German heavy tank prototypes that was ultimately deemed a failure as it was unable to pass the various rigorous tests. The development of this tank began on May 26, 1941, when Henschel and Porsche were requested by the Wehrmacht to design a heavy tank with a weight of 45 tons, capable of accommodating the high-velocity 8.8 cm KWK-36L56 cannon, adapted from the famous German 88 mm Flak 37 anti-aircraft gun. Both companies, Henschel and Porsche, were given the freedom to develop their designs, but both tanks would be equipped with the same turret provided by Krupp. In this case, Porsche decided to update the design of the medium tank VK3001P, which was their previous medium tank prototype, by adapting some existing components for use in the development of this new heavy tank. In Porsche's design, the VK4501P was equipped with two air-cooled V10 gasoline engines, Porsche Type 101, mounted at the rear of the tank. However, this innovative design, which had not been applied to tanks before, brought a number of significant problems. The electric drive system used, although advanced, often broke down and required intensive maintenance, making it less reliable in combat situations. Additionally, the main raw material such as copper, which was needed in large quantities for the electric drive system, was difficult to obtain, especially since copper was also in high demand by the German U-boat fleet, which was a high priority in the war effort. These problems were compounded by test results that showed the VK4501P was less agile and more difficult to control compared to the Henschel tank prototype, which used a more conventional and reliable design. As a result, Porsche's design was not mass-produced, and the superior Henschel tank, which later became known as the Tiger I, was selected for production and became one of the most famous tanks in World War II history. After the cancellation of the VK4501P heavy tank project, Porsche, which had produced around 100 chassis, including several nearly finished tanks, faced a major challenge regarding how to utilize the large investment that had been made in the form of materials, finances, and time. Facing this situation, a strategic decision was made to use these Porsche chassis as the basis for developing a new heavy Panzerjäger named Ferdinand, a heavy-class tank. This Panzerjäger would be equipped with the newly developed 8.8 cm Pak 43-2 L71 cannon by Krupp, a weapon with the capability to destroy enemy tanks from a distance before those tanks could effectively return fire. Ferdinand was designed to replace previous lighter Panzerjägers like the Marder II and Marder III in heavier offensive roles. In the early phase of its development in late 1942, this vehicle was known by various names, one of which was Tiger Sturmgeschütz. However, in late November 1943, Adolf Hitler proposed a new name for this vehicle, Elefant, a name that was officially adopted in February 1944 and began to be used in May 1944. For the German military, Ferdinand and Elefant were essentially the same vehicle, although the name used changed over time and further development. The main manufacturer of this vehicle was Alket for most of the war. However, Alket could not continue the Ferdinand project due to being heavily involved in the production of the Stug 3 and unable to divert its production capacity to other projects. The development and production of Ferdinand were eventually continued at the Nibelungenwerke factory. Ferdinand, which was one of the heaviest Panzerjägers ever deployed by the Wehrmacht, was first used in the major battle at Kursk in 1943. In this battle, a total of 89 Ferdinand units were deployed to the battlefield with the primary mission of destroying Soviet T-34 medium tanks and 76.2mm anti-tank guns. Equipped with the famous 88mm cannon, known for its destructive power and extraordinary accuracy, Ferdinand was capable of destroying targets from a distance of over 3 kilometers, making it one of the most lethal assets on the battlefield. Initially, Ferdinand performed its role very well, creating terror among Soviet armored forces that were less able to match its firepower. However, in the midst of the battle's chaos, significant problems began to emerge that revealed fundamental weaknesses in its design. Mines scattered by Soviet forces along the German advance route caused serious damage to Ferdinand's tracks and suspension. Such damage resulted in the loss of mobility and forced the vehicle crews to dismount to make repairs. On the other hand, Ferdinand also had a fatal deficiency in terms of defensive armament. The lack of side vision blocks and machine guns as secondary armament made Ferdinand very vulnerable to enemy infantry attacks. In situations that often occurred at Kursk, Soviet infantry quickly exploited this weakness, using cunning tactics by hiding in trenches until Ferdinand advanced past their front lines. Once Ferdinand was in a vulnerable position, they attacked from close range, throwing grenades and Molotov cocktails at the unprotected sides of the tank. In the early stages of the Battle of Kursk, where Germany launched a massive offensive to break Soviet defenses, combat vehicles like Ferdinand that were damaged could be recovered and repaired relatively quietly at night. However, as the tide of the battle turned against Germany and they were forced to retreat to defensive positions, the situation changed drastically. With fewer vehicles available to support recovery operations and the increasingly strong Soviet counterattacks, Ferdinand units that were still functional but suffered minor damage began to lose hope of being recovered. The increasingly chaotic battlefield conditions, coupled with pressure from Soviet forces that continually pushed German forces, made recovery efforts nearly impossible. At this point, vehicle crews were often faced with difficult choices, where they were forced to destroy their own vehicles to prevent the largely intact Ferdinand from falling into enemy hands. The Ferdinands may be the most successful mass-produced tank destroyer during World War II, especially when viewed from the ratio of the number of enemies destroyed compared to the number of units lost. During the Battle of Kursk, German Wehrmacht tank destroyer units claimed to have destroyed 320 enemy tanks with the loss of 13 Ferdinands. This remarkable ratio demonstrates the effectiveness of Ferdinand in its primary role as a tank destroyer. This superiority allowed Ferdinand to excel in direct combat, particularly in static defense roles. However, poor mobility and mechanical unreliability greatly diminished its capabilities on the battlefield. From 1942 to 1943, a total of 91 Ferdinand's units were produced by Nazi Germany. However, after the war, only 2 vehicles survived. One was captured by the Soviets at Kursk and is displayed at the Kubinka Tank Museum in Moscow, and one was captured by the Americans at Anzio and is located at the United States Army Ordnance Training Support Facility at Fort Gregg Adams. Today, the presence of these tanks not only serves as a historical exhibition, but also as a reminder of the strengths and weaknesses of the war technology once deployed by Germany in their effort to conquer the Soviet Union.